Tonight, disabled and dying in squalor inside this Port Augusta home. A young woman's death sparks a police major crime investigation.
The lives of 2 children from one family lost. Now a young driver faces court accused of killing them.
Inflation drops to a 3.5-year low. What it means for interest rates.
Kamala Harris makes a powerful pitch for president in the shadows of the White House.
And a humble home on a big block in the heart of Salisbury. Why it's sold for millions.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Kate Collins and Brenton Ragless.
Good evening. Major crime detectives are tonight investigating the death of a young, severely disabled woman they say was discovered gravely ill and living in squalor.
Right now, the victim's Port Augusta home remains a crime scene. Police say the conditions inside are so horrible it wasn't fit for humans to live there.
A Port Augusta house which appears unremarkable from the outside, but inside crime scene police are trawling through squalor so horrid they say humans should not have been living there.
The house is not fit for human habitation, in my view.
But detectives say people were living there, a mother and her 26-year-old daughter who had severe intellectual and physical disabilities and serious related illnesses.
Physical and intellectual disabilities are such that she needs adult care for the duration of her life.
Today, police revealed paramedics had been called to the house last Thursday. Inside, they found the disabled woman on the floor among the filth and struggled to even lift her.
The victim was suffering a serious medical condition and had open wounds and sores.
She was treated first at the Port Augusta hospital, but her condition deteriorated. Police were alerted and a search warrant was executed. On Friday, she was airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, where she died on Monday. Major crime detectives now leading an investigation into the horrid conditions the woman had been living in and whether neglect caused her death.
There's significant indicators present in the investigation at this stage of criminal neglect, but it's unclear at this stage whether that criminal neglect caused the death or whether the death was caused by serious underlying health issues.
A focus of the investigation now is who was actually caring for the victim. Police have already determined government and disability care services apparently knew little about the woman and her family, despite the high level of help she would have needed.
The disabilities that the victim had were of such that she would have been an ideal person to be under the NDIS.
The shocking details only just revealed publicly, now reverberating through the community.
It's just unthinkable, you know, in this day and age. It's just so sad. You just want to cry.
Yeah, it's sad when they're not getting the help that they need.
Already there are comparisons being made to the 2020 death of disabled woman Annie Smith, who'd been left to perish in putrid conditions in her Kensington Park home. In that case, her carer pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was jailed. At the time, authorities said something like it must never happen again. Tonight, they're trying to determine if it has. Detectives have now wrapped up their investigations here at the family home, but the path ahead for them is a lengthy one, which will include talking to the victim's doctors and anyone who had any involvement in her healthcare. Kate, we also understand that as well as the victim and her mother, a grandparent also lived here at the home but has recently passed away.
Keziah Sullivan, thank you. A driver has been released on bail, charged over the deaths of 2 young siblings in a tragic chain reaction crash in the state's southeast. The 22-year-old's family there in support as he faced court for the first time over the smash that shattered the Mount Gambier community.
22-year-old Callum Thorne walking from the Mount Gambier cells today, charged over a tragic crash that claimed 2 young lives. Is there anything you'd like to say? Supported by family today, how's he feeling?
No comment.
Thorne, a local man, is accused of careering into the back of a family's SUV, which had stopped suddenly on the Riddick Highway at Nangwarry on Sunday afternoon, all triggered when a black Holden in front of them all collided with an emu. The crash claiming the lives of 5-year-old Isaac Eichenberg and his 15-year-old sister Keziah. Prosecutors tried to oppose Thorne's bail in court this afternoon because they say they can't find his phone. That's That's despite it being seen on police body cam at the crash site, but even after a search of his home is now missing. Do you know where your phone is? The lives of those who knew the family also forever altered. Abby's son Teddy was best friends with Isaac. They went to kindergarten together. She's now had to have a heart-wrenching conversation with him.
Just didn't really say anything, and I asked him if he knew what that meant, and then he just cried and said he'll never get to play with him again, and I said, that's right, buddy.
As the community embraces the Eichenberg family, they too were somehow finding the strength for support.
Isaac's mum, she's messaged a couple of times now just checking in how Teddy's going, and it's just so nice. We'll talk about Isaac every day, I think.
Thorn will have to report here to the police station once a week. He'll return to court in May for charge determination. As for the Eichenberg family, the father, Chris, has been released from Mount Gambier Hospital. He'll be travelling to Adelaide tomorrow to join his wife and 2 other children who are still being treated for minor injuries. Brenton.
Inga Nielsen, thank you for the update. There's been a further delay in the court case of Olympian cyclist Rowan Dennis, who's accused of killing his wife in a crash outside their Medindi home. Beth Excel was in court. Beth, he's put off entering a plea.
He has, Brenton. It's almost a year since Rowan Dennis's wife was killed in a crash just metres from the couple's home, and he was expected to enter pleas to the charges against him today, but his lawyer instead asked the court for more time. The 34-year-old father of 2 is accused of being behind the wheel when his ute struck and killed his wife and fellow Olympian Melissa Hoskins in December. The 32-year-old was rushed to hospital but later died from her injuries, sending shockwaves through the cycling community. Dennis is charged with causing death by dangerous driving. His lawyer today asked for 6 more weeks so that ongoing negotiations with prosecutors can continue. Rowan, are you planning to plead guilty? Rowan, are you working on a deal? Can you tell us about the ongoing negotiations? Now, that request was granted by the magistrate. Dennis will return to answer the charge in December.
Thanks, Beth. Price pressures on Australian families are finally starting to ease, with inflation tumbling to its lowest level in 3.5 years. But government energy bill subsidies, while welcome, are complicating the picture, meaning an interest rate cut could still be a way off.
From power shock to power play. Energy subsidies received by households and businesses offsetting cost pressures elsewhere.
We are making very welcome, encouraging and heartening progress in the fight against inflation, but we know that Australians are still doing it tough.
The Consumer Price Index rising by just 0.2% in the September quarter and 2.8% for the year, the lowest annual inflation since March 2021. While insurance and childcare have skyrocketed over the year, rents increasing uncomfortably along with medical services, electricity prices have plummeted almost 16% thanks to one-off energy bill relief from federal and state governments. When this is stripped out, underlying inflation is 3.5%.
Our policies, including our energy rebates, are making a meaningful difference.
Temporary subsidies will not hoodwink the Reserve Bank of Australia, and they certainly won't hoodwink the Australian public.
The Reserve Bank Governor, Michelle Bullock, has already indicated she'll ignore the headline inflation figure and instead look at underlying inflation.
3.5% is still too high for the RBA to feel confident that inflation is not only going to return to the 2 to 3% target band, but actually stay there as well.
In other words, there'll likely be no cut to interest rates until next year, February at the earliest. The government desperate for at least one before the federal election.
Interest rates should already have come down under the Albanese government because they've come down in comparable economies.
Inflation has more than halved on our watch. Real wages are growing again. We've created 1 million jobs.
Michelle Bullock keeping borrowers waiting. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
And after today's inflation data, Australia's biggest bank scrapped its prediction of an interest rate cut this year. Finance editor Chris Kohler explains.
It feels like we should be celebrating. Inflation has finally dropped into the all-important target range. there is still that pesky issue of core inflation, the measure that takes out volatile items like petrol and energy prices, and that's still a bit high. In fact, if core inflation was an event at the Olympics, Australia would be winning, or rather losing. Ours is noticeably higher than other major countries. So while interest rates are being cut in the US, the UK, Europe, Canada, New Zealand and China, our central bank is pointing at this and holding off. Commonwealth Bank economists today abandoned their call of an interest rate cut this year, and the market now sees a February cut as a 50-50 chance. Of course, inflation isn't just about interest rates, it's about the costs of all the things we buy. And today's data shows some things are getting cheaper. In the last quarter, on top of power and petrol prices, the costs of clothes, shoes and appliances all were falling. And over the year, bread, meat and dairy are basically steady. But for now, it looks like there won't be a cut until well into the new year.
We can put a name and a face tonight to the young boy killed when a car crashed into his school playground during the afternoon pickup in Melbourne. The 11-year-old was just chatting to his friends in the sunshine when the unthinkable happened.
His name is Jack Davey, just 11 years old. He was killed and 4 other children were injured when the driver of this SUV crashed into the primary school in Melbourne's inner east.
He's just a beautiful soul. He was sitting on a chair having a chat with the girls in the sunshine, which is just him.
Jack loved his footy. This year he earned a place in the under-12 Australian futsal team that toured Fiji. And he was a passionate basketballer. From his club, a valued member of our community, this tragedy is unfathomable.
It's very devastating about what happened to the kid, especially my son goes to school as well. It could have been him as well.
And from a devastated principal. Praise for parents and school staff who rushed to comfort children in the minutes after the crash.
Their courage and care can only be described as remarkable.
Jack's death feels like it's touched every corner of the country. Victoria's Premier, Jacinta Allen, reached out to the principal in the hours after the crash.
Principal had just gotten off the phone to the mum. And it was a tough conversation. It was a really tough conversation.
The 40-year-old female driver of the SUV, who had just picked up her own child, has been released by police, pending further investigations. The school has been flooded with support from other teachers. 25 staff from neighbouring schools are now there, helping to keep classes running.
This school community is so wonderful and strong, and together we will get through this.
The 4 other children injured are still in hospital, all listed as being in a stable condition. Mark Burrows, 9 News.
There were dramatic scenes outside Adelaide Magistrates Court today. 6 Border Force officers swooping on a man as he exited the court building. Officials say he was detained due to a suspected visa breach. He didn't answer questions as he was taken away to be interviewed.
A Good Samaritan has had their car stolen at Kilkenny after stopping to help a woman who appeared in distress on Torrens Road. The woman then jumping into the Mitsubishi Lancer and taking off shortly after midnight. Police later arresting the unlicensed 32-year-old on Wattle Street at Brompton, charging her with drink driving and illegal use. She's been bailed to front court next month.
They're being described as virtual power plants now rolling out across Adelaide suburbs. The government promising it's another strategic way of reducing power bills. But there are concerns middle-income earners won't benefit at all.
With an energy bill of just $30 a week, Plimpton Park resident Diana Livingstone is reaping the savings.
How much was I paying? Let's just say it was double the cost it is now.
It's thanks to what the government's calling virtual power plants, an innovative new way of creating power. 2 battery storage facilities now set up in McGill and Edwardstown.
We're creating energy through our solar panels using Housing Trust roofs, and we have batteries either on the households or through what you're seeing behind us.
That combination giving 600 eligible low-income earners a saving of around $550 per year, an initiative the state government's looking to expand to 10,000 homes in the near future.
The state government will be committing some of its resources in line with Rehn to try and expand this.
But there are concerns middle-income earners have been left behind because only housing trust tenants are eligible to partake in the program. The opposition says families are facing record electricity bills. The Australian energy market operator only forecasting a modest $57 drop over the next year for the average household bill, adding to their cost of living pain.
The less demand we have in the evenings and in the mornings, in heat waves and in really cold weather, the more everyone's power prices drops.
Everybody wants lower power prices, don't they?
Ollie Haig, 9 News.
Tough new penalties cracking down on illegal vape and tobacco trade have passed the Parliament. It means those caught selling products to under 18-year-olds could face fines of up to $1 million for a first offence, while selling products without a licence risks a penalty of up to $750,000.
To sell to a minor is completely unconscionable, and we need to have the ability to take action if somebody is doing that.
More than 270 inspections and raids have now occurred since July 1, seizing more than $4 million worth of vapes and illegal tobacco.
The hammer has dropped on a large parcel of land in Salisbury, selling for an incredible $5.5 million.
The payday, an end of an era for both the community and the family who lived there for decades and have been knocking back prospective buyers for years.
For years, it was a treasure trove of fond family memories and market-bound produce.
They were the backbone of Salisbury, the beginning of the Northern Belt. They did all our fruit and veg, eggs, milk, the lot.
But as of yesterday, the Windsor Street block now has more tangible, eye-watering value.
We had a quote price of some $3 to $3.3 million with 20 registered bidders, 4 active bidders, and selling for a whopping $5.5 million.
A syndicate of investors, now the property's second ever owners, after being home to the Miliardo family since the late 50s. Their matriarch lived in the 3-bed cottage, working the field until health failed. She passed earlier this month, bringing to an end at least 3 decades of the family knocking back developers.
They hung out for their family and, yeah, good on them.
The plans for the future of this 3-acre site starts with a road being built down the centre of it with as many as 40 affordable homes on either side. The cottage, backing onto the enormous backyard, backs onto a golf course. The humble home and 2-car garage might not survive redevelopment, but the story attached is as unique as the land parcel of this size.
There's probably at least 20 or 30 across metropolitan Adelaide. The big question is, will they actually come on the market for sale?
If there's anything to learn from Windsor Street, patience is profitable.
It's going to be a bit sad. It's been there for a very long time. A bit of a landmark.
I just hope we get good neighbours.
Will De Fulvio, 9 News.
Phenomenal.
It is, isn't it? Well, Rennie's here now with a preview of sport, and the Melbourne Cup favourite is out.
Yeah, Kate, there'll be no repeat of that extraordinary Cox Plate performance, unfortunately, but that withdrawal could help South Australia's leading hope with the jockey of the map on a global mission to deliver victory. Backing himself in, why Nathan McSweeney is ready to deliver in his test audition. Plus, grand theft, World Series style, as Yankees fans go to extreme lengths to help their team.
Thank you, Rita. We'll talk to you soon. Are you in the market for a used car?
Still to come tonight, how they fare safety-wise, which vehicles pass and which ones fail, and how much is cost a factor? Our comprehensive report is coming up a little later.
40,000 stolen Bluey coins uncovered in a Sydney warehouse.
And a very special visitor gets hearts racing at the local retirement home. A red glow and sparks lit up a Richmond street overnight as flames took hold of a room in the back of a home. When fire crews arrived to Kitson Avenue just before 1 a.m, those inside the house had already evacuated after their smoke alarms went off. It took around 30 minutes to put it out, and while the cause hasn't yet been determined, it's not considered suspicious.
A driver has been seriously injured after colliding with a B-triple road train at Murray Bridge North. The rescue helicopter was flown in to transport the driver from the crash on Lanham Road just after 2 this morning. The 60-year-old local man suffered serious injuries and was airlifted to Flinders Medical Centre. The truck driver wasn't hurt.
Frustration for ING customers with an outage hitting its app and internet service, stopping online transactions. The bank, which has millions of customers, has apologised. It says its tech team is working to fix the problem as soon as possible.
More than 40,000 limited edition Bluey coins have been recovered during a police search in Sydney. Strikeforce bandit detectives uncovered the stolen dollar bucks at a storage facility. 3 people have been charged over their alleged involvement in the theft of 63,000 coins from a warehouse.
For real life. Well, aged care residents have had a lucky brush with the Melbourne Cup, with the coveted gold trophy dropping into their dining room. The prize piece is on the home straight of its global tour, ready to be handed to a winner next Tuesday.
They're 150 k's from Flemington, but these racing fans still scored a close-up with the cup. How did it feel?
Wonderful.
Do you know how much that's worth?
Oh, a lot of money, a lot of gold in it.
There's a lot of gold in it, $750,000.
Oh, my God.
I'd be frightened to have that at home.
Don't drop it, Max, don't drop it.
No.
It was steady hands and smiles all round at Bethlehem Home for the Aged. The residents dressed in their racing best for the VIP morning tea. It's a special extra stop on the Cup's global tour.
I've been to Auckland, up on the top of the Harbour Bridge. I've been to Kununurra on the back of WA, and the joy it brings to old people, young people, babies, doesn't matter, racing folk. Everyone's got a story to tell.
Back where the race will be run, fashion was front of mind today with the Carnival's stylish competition officially launched.
Fashions on the Field has been going for 62 years. And it's an incredible outlet for people to be creative, feel fabulous in their outfits.
It's a really exciting year. It's a record prize pool of $370,000. So I think people will be pulling out all the stops to walk away with the prize.
So as we launch into a week where all eyes are on the outfits, I thought who better to ask for some fashion tips than those who've seen many a trend come and go.
My red hot fashion tip is to wear what suits you to start with. Be colourful, says she, in black.
I think we've got to have bright stuff to liven us up.
Stephanie Anderson, 9 News.
Nice one, well done. Well, Monarto Safari Park has welcomed 6 bison calves. The fluffy new additions to the herd were all born this month. They could stand and move around soon after they were born, but they stick close to their mum for the first few months. It's been a couple of years since the park has had bison calves. The American bison is still classified as a near-threatened species in the wild.
Well, can you believe it? Only 3 sleeps to go until the Christmas pageant.
That is, of course, if you can sleep. I'm so excited. Jessica Braithwaite, we've been gifted a summary forecast.
Oh, we sure have, Brenton. In fact, this year you won't have to be worrying about, do I need to bring the ponchos or the umbrellas, but you'll certainly need to be thinking about packing the sunscreen because it is a warm and sunny forecast. And extra exciting today, we got a sneak peek at the final new float to have been revealed for 2024. This was down by the river. Now, I hope I can pronounce this correctly. Kumanga Malduria Pindi is the name of this float. It translates to coming together in the Ghana language, and it's a sentiment that aligns with this year's pageant theme and honours the Ghana culture. The float design is inspired by Ghana country landscapes, the flora and the fauna, and the coming together of people around campfires to celebrate community. Should look absolutely gorgeous. Now, today in Adelaide, we saw the temperature reaching around 28 degrees. It's going to be a lot warmer than that come pageant day, probably up to 34 degrees, which means in the morning, sort of mid-morning when we're doing the pageant, potentially in the mid-20s. But I've got all the details coming up in the full forecast soon.
Sounds wonderful. Beautiful float too. Thanks, Jessica. In the news ahead, 7 days to go.
And the presidential push is on the home stretch. Kamala Harris's final message to voters ahead of polling day. We've got the latest from DC next.
And an out-of-control tram derails, crashing straight into an Apple store.
It was a rally by a president now infamous in US history. But today, Kamala Harris took to the stage at the site where Donald Trump addressed his supporters on January 6, 2021, before they stormed the Capitol.
In front of tens of thousands, the Vice President warned voters they were choosing between freedom or chaos.
In the shadows of the House she wants to call home, the prosecutor turned politician makes her final case against Donald Trump.
He is
the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol.
Kamala Harris choosing the symbolism of this site to remind America of one of its darkest days. Before an estimated 75,000 strong crowd, the Democratic candidate was casting herself as the unity pick, while her Republican counterpart was in damage control.
But I think no president's done more for Puerto Rico than I have.
Donald Trump trying to reframe this racism-filled rally in New York.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
There's never been an event so beautiful. It was like a love fest.
A slam dunk for the Democrats, complicated by this comment from Joe Biden.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
On a day, the Vice President aimed to set herself apart, not just from her opponent, but also her boss.
I have been honored to serve as Joe Biden's vice president, but I will bring my own experiences and ideas to the Oval Office. My presidency will be different, and I ask for your vote.
In this place, on this stage, at this point in history, this was Kamala Harris drawing a distinction between two leaders. Herself, someone she says stands for freedom and is about hope, and Donald Trump, a man she has called a fascist. There's 7 days to go and voters in 7 swing states to convince.
Each of you has the power to turn the page and start writing the next chapter.
In the final stretch, every decision is a spin of the wheel. Tonight, the Harris campaign bet on Vegas. In Washington, D.C., Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
A terror charge has now been laid against the 18-year-old accused of killing 3 girls at a dance class in Southport in the UK in July. Police say the toxin, ricin and al-Qaeda material were found in the search of Axel Rudakabana's home. He's also facing 3 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder.
Hezbollah has named its new leader, sparking a warning from Israel that he won't last long. The country's banning of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees condemned again today by the international community.
Thank you, Mr. President.
At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council called to discuss Israel's strikes on Iran, Israel's move to ban the work of the UN relief agency in Gaza became the focus.
The United States rejects any Israeli efforts to starve Palestinians.
There is no justification for denying civilians access to essential supplies.
Israel's decision to pass a law banning the UN Aid Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, will have devastating consequences, the World Health Organization has warned.
In the last year, we have exposed UNRWA Gaza as a terrorist front, camouflaged as a humanitarian agency.
I mean, what is lost is the potential lives of the people in the Gaza Strip. I mean, because we are the essential player in the humanitarian operation.
On the ground in Gaza, close to 100 people were killed following an Israeli strike on the town of Beit Lahia. Gaza's health ministry claiming at least 20 of the victims are children. Israel's enemy to the north, Hezbollah, has named Naim Qassem its new leader. Israel promptly responding. Temporary appointment, not for long, the country's Minister of Defence posted. In London, Jessica Millward, 9 News.
Sailing along the tracks, then slamming into a shop front. A tram has derailed in Norway's capital, Oslo, sending it crashing into an Apple store. Around 20 people were on board at the time, 4 of them injured.
The switch to electric hits new heights.
When 9 News returns, the Australian company turning its planes green with battery-powered motors. That story's next.
And what you should know when buying a used car, it could mean the difference between life and death.
Well, if you're looking for a used car for yourself or a loved one, be warned. The gap between the safest cars and poor crash performers is huge. Hundreds of vehicles have been tested and the results might surprise you.
The difference is dramatic. 2 dual-cab utes from 2012, a Great Wall V200 and a Holden Colorado, head-on at 64 kilometres an hour.
And the Colorado, much less of the front of the car actually intruding into the cabin, so you're much less likely to get severe chest injuries or leg injuries.
The Colorado is rated 4 stars for safety, the Great Wall just 1. They're just 2 of the vehicles assessed for the annual used car safety ratings by Monash University and transport agencies across the country.
You're 10 times more likely to die or be seriously injured in a vehicle comparing the highest safety rating to the lowest safety rating.
The best of the 5-star rated vehicles include the Mazda 3 from 2013 to 2019, 2011 to 2022 Toyota Camrys and the VW Touareg 2011 to 2019. 60% of these vehicles are available for less than $10,000. Also 5-star rated the 2015 to 2020 Hyundai Elantra, Holden Astra 2016 to 2020 or the 2016 to 2021 Honda Civic.
Everyone's focused on the price of a car, but it's possible to get a car at the right price but not compromise on safety.
Cars with a poor 1-star rating: Ford Fiesta 2004 to 2008, Hyundai Accent 2000 to 2006, Toyota Camry 1997 to 2002 and Holden Commodore VT or VX 1997 to 2002. If you're looking for a safe car, the difference can come down to year of manufacture, even if it's the same make and model. Most of those rated safer picks were from 2008 onwards, with more advanced safety and occupant protection systems as standard. For the full list of all 404 vehicles tested, go to safevehicles.com.au. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Seaplanes have been taking off for close to a century, and now the hope is they'll be at the forefront of a new age for aviation.
Australia could have the first electric seaplane in our skies as early as next year.
Bobbing near the boardwalk, then up and away. Soon these seaplanes will take aviation to new heights with electric engines.
It's revolutionary, really.
Former CEO of Sydney Seaplanes, Aaron Shaw, now the co-founder of Australian startup Dovetail Electric Aviation.
The race is on. We think this is an opportunity for us to lead that pack and introduce this technology internationally.
They plan to rip out the fuel-burning turbine engines in Sydney Seaplanes' Cessna Caravans and install electric motors.
The source of energy that powers that system comes from a clean source. Effectively, there's no emissions.
It hasn't taken to the sky just yet. So far, the system has successfully powered a propeller. If all goes well, next year will be the first test flight.
This is a new technology. There's always going to be a lot of compliance to be shown to the regulatory bodies.
The rechargeable battery will work the same as an electric car. The biggest challenge, distance.
At the moment, there are about 5 times less energy in the battery as you can get per weight in jet fuel.
Quick tourist flights, perfect for early adoption, but the hope is to eventually expand into short domestic routes.
For passengers, the biggest difference is it will be a much quieter flight. There'll be hardly any engine noise at all, so you can simply enjoy the serenity.
While tackling a big environmental problem, aviation is responsible for 2.5% of global carbon emissions, and demand for air travel is only set to increase 10 billion passenger trips projected by 2050. Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
Looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
Sure does. Very good.
Well, sport is up next. Rennie, it's audition time for a handful of Test cricketers.
Kate, it is hard to imagine a tour match that's ever had so much attention as this one, and that's as selectors still search for an opener to take on India. And up next, South Aussie Nathan McSweeney states his case for the baggy green. Also, the globe-trotting king charting an extraordinary path to the Melbourne Cup, and the shock loss that had a tennis star beating himself up. Hello again. Champion jockey James McDonald is, for now, without a ride in the Melbourne Cup after the withdrawal of Cox Plate winner Via Sestino. No such bad luck for Rachel King. She'll guide South Australia's sole hope, the Map, but only after she completes an around-the-world journey to Flemington.
They travel from all over the globe to pursue Melbourne Cup glory. And this year, Rachel King takes the crown for making the maddest dash of all.
It's unique because a lot of people have heard that I'm doing it and getting back to Melbourne for Cup Day.
She'll partner with the Map in the great race at Flemington, but first, she has to get there. The English-born Sydney-based jockey flew out of the harbour city on Monday, bound for California to compete in the internationally renowned Breeders' Cup on Saturday morning. She'll then fly straight to Melbourne, arriving with just 24 hours to prepare for her fourth tilt at the Melbourne Cup.
I'm no stranger to these big occasions now, and I can go there, really full of confidence, and I'm very confident in my horse.
The Map's regular jockey, South Australian Jamie Carr, providing King with the invaluable inside word.
She was sort of kind enough to put my name forward for the ride as well, and so that's been great to have someone like her to, bounce off and get to know the horse as well as I possibly can.
Unfortunately, the Cup has been stripped of more star power. International stayer Jan Bruegel had already been ruled out, and now the owners of Chris Waller's red-hot favourite Via Sistina have chosen not to risk running the mare following her Cox Plate triumph. Still, the field won't be lacking in overseas talent after UK stayer C. King snapped up what's likely the final spot this afternoon.
He wins the Bendigo Cup on his way to Melbourne.
The victory rocketing C. King from a 100-1 outsider into $13 for the Cup. Braden Ingram, 9 News.
Yeah, that was impressive. Well, Adelaide 36ers star Montrezl Harrell has fired up angrily defending his all-court basketball game. It comes as Isaac Humphries races against the clock to be fit for this weekend's top 4 clash with New Zealand.
Suffering calf tightness, Humphries watched from the sidelines as the Sixers performed a Friday miracle, overrunning the Taipans from a 17-point deficit. An even bigger challenge awaits across the ditch with the third-place Breakers. And while Humphries will join the flight, the team hoping he also joins them on the Pine.
It's what we kind of prepare for. We both basically ran our plays and stuff like that as if he wasn't going to be here, you feel me? But if he does come back, it's not like we got to, incorporate him in anything. Hopefully that he's out there on the floor because it definitely helps us.
Harrell, the star of the show against Cairns.
Harrell thought about it, did more than think about it, he drained it.
Pulling down 36 points, 16 rebounds and 5 blocks.
Lead. Edwards skipping inside, blocked by Harrell.
But just don't ask him if that performance surprised him.
I'm a basketball player. If you actually follow my game and follow my career, you see that I go through all summer then playing guard and playing on the wing and just shooting threes, brother. So it's not a surprise to me because this is my game. I'm a tremendous player that works and busts his ass in order to keep improving his game.
That game attracting renewed NBA interest, something Harrell is keen to entertain once his job down under is done.
Putting this team in a great position to go into the playoffs and actually putting ourselves in position to win the championship. Once I do that, then I figure out what's after that.
With a spot in the top 3 up for grabs, this match set to be season-defining.
Every game that we go into in this league, it's a fight. Everybody has to compete. It's a short season, so every game matters. Every game is big.
Vicky Schwartz, 9 News.
Well, Andrew McDonald has been rewarded for Australian cricket's run of success, signing a new deal to remain as coach until the end of 2027. His next assignment, helping decide the new Test opener with South Aussie skipper Nathan McSweeney to begin his audition when he leads Australia A tomorrow.
A last hit in the nets before stepping into the national spotlight.
As a kid, your dreams to play for Australia and get a baggy green, and it's a great opportunity, no doubt.
The fight to open for Australia is down to 4. Cameron Bancroft, Marcus Harris, Sam Constas and Nathan McSweeney.
I think I'm playing probably the best cricket I have. I feel like my game's progressing each year and hopefully I can continue to do that. Again, it's just another opportunity.
It is a high-stakes one, though. The eyes of Australia are watching, something McSweeney is relishing.
Being talked about, play for your country is a great honour, and try and embrace that, the chat.
Unlike the other options, the 25-year-old doesn't usually open the batting. He says that shouldn't count against him.
Batting 3 for South Australia and pretty much my whole career, it's not too dissimilar to opening. I feel like you could be in there the first over the game. All my preps with the new ball, and so I feel like my game's ready.
McSweeney will captain Australia A Mackay this week, but against convention, he won't be setting the batting order.
Selectors will have that for me. I'm quite clear where I'm batting on for this game.
Whatever order they walk out in, the strategy is simple against a talented Indian side.
Hopefully we can all take it and make it a really hard job for the selectors.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
Let's go to golf. Cameron Smith is still haunted by last year's capitulation at the Australian PGA Championship, so much so that he's expanded his schedule this Aussie summer in an attempt to rediscover that winning edge.
I would say I've got the most pressure on me out of everyone. I think, like you said, a lot of people are expecting me to come down here and just win. I really don't think that's the case.
Smith is chasing his first individual win of the year at the Queensland PGA, which begins tomorrow morning. World number 6, Andrei Rublev, has seen red at the Paris Masters. The Russian completely lost his cool during his straight-set second-round loss, smashing his knee so hard he drew blood. Elsewhere, Aussie Alex de Minaur is a step closer to qualifying for the end-of-year ATP finals after moving into the round of 16, while Alexei Poprin will face Daniil Medvedev following a straight-sets win over Matteo Berrettini. And the New York Yankees live to fight another day, beating the LA Dodgers to avoid a World Series whitewash. Down 3-0, the Yankees would do anything to snatch victory. Their passionate fans also committed to the cause.
He's wrestling with the fan, and he's going to get the call. That's Mark Carlson, the crew chief. He's calling Torres out for fan interference.
I've never seen anything like that.
Game 5 gets underway in New York tomorrow. The Dodgers still hold a 3-1 lead. You can't say they're not parochial, those New York fans. Goodness me.
Very nice,
trying to rip the ball out of his hand.
Thanks so much,
Can't do that.
We'll catch you tomorrow, mate. Take a look at finance now. Today's inflation data sent the Australian dollar to lows not seen in months. Here's Chris Kohler with more.
Anyone heading overseas for Christmas will be hoping the Aussie dollar pulls itself together soon. It's currently trading at 65.4 US cents, and October is shaping up as the worst month for our currency since 2022. The US election and the changing outlook for interest rates is causing that readjustment. Our market fell today as banks dropped sharply, and Woolworths warned its investors that shoppers are, quote, extremely value conscious, and that could impact profits. Shareholders rushed for the exit, the share price tumbling 6%. And traders are scrambling towards Bitcoin. This is one of the Trump trades being seen as markets adjust for a tight election. The other is gold, which is also touching new record highs today.
Thank you, Chris. Well, even warmer now for pageant day. Jessica has the weather outlook next.
Now, though, tomorrow's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Loz tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Hello there. Well, Father Christmas will no doubt be packing his sleigh and they're getting ready to head to Adelaide for the Christmas pageant this Saturday. No doubt pretty cold at the North Pole at the moment, but we will be welcoming him here with some very warm weather for the pageant. I'll take you through it. Today it was pretty warm today too. We got up to 28 degrees in the city. Right now it's cooled off to around 21. And then around the suburbs, well, yeah, it was a little bit warmer than expected. We got up to 30 degrees at Mawson Lakes, 29 at Elizabeth, and a slightly softer 25 at Noarlunga. Temperatures were definitely on the warm side across the top too, 36 degrees at Port Augusta and 34 at Port Pirie today. Renmark hit 33 and Kadina 30, but it was cooler in Mount Gambier with 19. We've got another high pressure system rolling in on the charts. At first, that will bring a small dip in temperatures before a big jump on the weekend. Not everyone is looking as sunny as Adelaide. Interstate tomorrow, Melbourne looking at a shower and 19 degrees. Sydney, showers increasing and the chance of storms, 25 the top there. Back to SA and it's blue skies abound, but a temperature drop to 26 at Port Pirie and 24 at Clare. Could be pretty windy too around Whyalla and Port Augusta. With those cooler southerlies, there is a temperature drop at the Mount, going for 18 degrees tomorrow and half a chance of a shower there. Narracourt and Victor Harbour expecting 20 and Kingscote 21. On local waters, winds picking up through the day, reaching up to 25 knots north of Grange in the evening. Now you can see those temperatures taking a dip around
around Adelaide tomorrow, 24 for Golden Grove and Marion and 23 at Noarlunga. Likely to be still very pleasant, lots of sun around, a top in the mid-20s, around 25 degrees in the city. 24 degrees to round out the week on Friday, but then here comes the big jump up to 34 degrees on Saturday, of course, for pageant day, which means it'll probably be around the mid-20s when the pageant is taking place during the morning. And then another big drop back down again on Sunday, back down to 23 degrees. But with that warm weather for pageant day, Kate and Brenton, hopefully Father Christmas will pack his board shorts and maybe he can take a dip in one of our beautiful beaches while he's here as well.
Love the idea. 34, that's amazing. Thank you, Jessica. That's the Midweek Bulletin here on 9. Great to have you join us.
A current affair is up next with more news updates to follow. Enjoy your evening.
Good night.